So in this video, we are talking about one of the most topical and memorable characters in Shakespeare's plays, and that's Shylock from The Merchant of Venice. Does Shylock deserve our sympathy or not? Stay tuned to find out. So if you're not familiar with The Merchant of Venice, here is my 1-minute digest for you, so here we go. A Venetian merchant called Antonio borrows money from a Jewish usurer called Shylock, but he does this on behalf of his friend, who is called Bassanio. Here's the catch though, Antonio hates Shylock. Number 1 for being a loan shark, and number 2 for being, well, a Jew. And Shylock is very aware of Antonio's hatred, by the way, and so as collateral for this loan, he asks for a pound of flesh from Antonio, because what else would you ask for, right? Shocking, I know, but somehow both parties agree to this. And so the time eventually comes for Antonio to make good on his loan repayment, but alas, his fortunes are lost at sea on a stormy voyage and he can't make Shylock's deadline. Drama, right? And so Shylock's basically like, tough. You still have to stump up, and so he insists upon having Antonio's pound of flesh. And so when Bassanio finds out about this, he is racked by guilt over his friend's predicament. And so he takes this to the most powerful woman in town, whose name is Portia, who he also ends up marrying. And so she agrees to help. And to do this, she dresses up as this male lawyer, and she eventually outwits Shylock at a trial where she not only manages to throw out this pound of flesh bond, she also manages to force a Christian conversion on the Jew. And eventually Shylock concedes defeat, and all the Venetians marry each other, and all's well that seemingly ends well. But does all end well, though? The problem with this play is that we are reading or watching it as 21st century audiences, and so I'm guessing we have considerably more liberal sensibilities. With the benefit of hindsight of the Holocaust and our understanding of the moral injustices of anti-Semitism and racism at large, it's probably a bit weird for us to accept The Merchant of Venice as a comedy, even though we know that Shakespearean comedies are largely defined by them ending in marriages, which The Merchant of Venice does. And so, well, Renaissance audiences probably didn't really care much about Shylock's defeat. We're likely to think a little bit more about whether Shakespeare didn't want us to feel a little bit more sympathetic towards Shylock's fate. Now, the key question concerning Shylock in this play is also whether he is born cruel, or rather made cruel, by the Venetian society that continues to spurn and spit on him for something that he can't control, i.e. being a Jew. And so, after all, when someone is discriminated against for a long period of time, it kind of makes sense that he'd want to get back at his tormentors, especially when he can go about doing it in a technically legal way. Not to say that we should, by the way, but it's understandable, if you get me. Because let's not forget, the Venetian law doesn't actually say anything about limiting the nature of a bond. And so this pound of flesh request that Shylock had asked for and that Antonio had agreed to is actually legal in the eyes of the law. And so Portia really just got to trump Shylock at court because of her killer rhetorical skills.
So taken at your peril, Jew. Why did the devil give him good of it?
And of course because, well, contextually, Jews can be seen to triumph over Christians in Renaissance England, which was a period in history, out of many periods in history, when Jews were seen as second-class citizens and Jewishness carried a hefty amount of social stigma. And so to explore this idea of whether Shylock deserves our sympathy, I figured that we could look at one of the most famous excerpts in this play, which comes in Act 3, Scene 1, when Shylock makes an impassioned case for the basic humanity of the Jewish people. And here it goes. I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes?
Not a Jew eyes?
Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions?
Hath not a Jew hands, dimensions, senses, affections, passions.
Fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer, as a Christian is? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. So the message here is loud and clear. Jews are no less human than Christians. So as alike as we are in humanity, Shylock says, we are likewise vulnerable to each other's attacks. And so Shakespeare's use of enumeration to list out the faculties of hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions suggests that Jews aren't this abstract concept inured to hurt and pain, but are instead people of flesh and blood who are just looking to survive in this world like everyone else. The parallelism in those 4 rhetorical questions, by the way, which goes, if you prick, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? Etc., reinforces the idea that Jews and Christians are both on par because they are mortals subject to the forces and decrees of God. And as such, they are no more superior or inferior to each other in the wider cosmological order, or in the eyes of God. So ultimately, perhaps Shakespeare is suggesting to us that there's really no sound justification for the sort of anti-Semitism that his Venetian characters show. So what do you think? Do you think Shylock deserves our sympathy? And what do you make of his characterization in this play? Go ahead and leave me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you want more English literature, study tips and learning resources going forward. And if you want a detailed analysis of this play, you can go ahead and check out the links in the video description below, which will take you to the blog posts that I've written on justice and also racism and prejudice in this play, complete with key quotes to help you revise, by the way. So go ahead and make sure and check that out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Ciao!